Welcome back. We start a news bulletin from Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan, who says India has been taken over by the radical RSS ideology, which is inspired by the Nazis. This report has details.
Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan is in Malaysia on a two-day official trip. Speaking at the Institute of Advanced Islamic Studies in Kuala Lumpur, Khan said the BJP government is trying to exterminate Muslims in occupied Kashmir and India the way Hitler set out to eliminate the entire Jewish race. The Prime Minister warned of worsening situation in the occupied valley if the Muslim world stays silent. Khan told the gathering that New Delhi has annexed the valley and turned it into an open prison for the past 6 months. He said there is no link between Islam and terrorism.
When the Western leaders started calling it Islamic terrorism, we should have all objected. What had their act, the terrorist act, what had that got to do with Islam? There was no connection between Islam and those terrorist acts.
The Pakistani Prime Minister said the growing Islamophobia needs to be tackled by educating the new generation, especially non-Muslims, about the true face of Islam. Earlier, Malaysia's Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad and Khan signed an extradition treaty to enhance security cooperation. Speaking at a joint press conference, Khan thanked Mahathir for his unwavering support for the Kashmir cause.
Moving on, preparations in Pakistan are in full swing to observe Kashmir Solidarity Day tomorrow to highlight the plight of people of Indian-occupied Kashmir. Pakistan annually observes the day to remind the world community of its obligations towards the resolution of the outstanding dispute. Prime Minister Imran Khan will address a special session of Azad and Jammu Kashmir Legislative Assembly in Muzaffarabad. Meanwhile, arrangements have been made to form human chains at all 6 entry points connecting Azad Kashmir to Pakistan. Pro-freedom leaders of occupied Kashmir have thanked Pakistan for its solidarity and support. The valley has been reeling under India's lockdown and communications blackout for the past 184 days. In a related development, in the US, Seattle City Council, among the most powerful city councils in the country, has passed a motion against India's controversial Citizenship Act. The resolution was passed to express solidarity with the city's South Asian community, regardless of religion and caste. The council said it finds the legislation to be discriminatory to Muslims, oppressed castes, women, and indigenous people. The council asked New Delhi to repeal the act and take steps to help refugees under UN resolutions. It said Seattle City's decision to condemn the law is a message to all who wish to undermine pluralism and religious freedom. An exacerbating crisis, the death toll by the new coronavirus has jumped to 427, with over 20,000 people infected. The virus has now spread to 27 countries. This report has details.
China's National Health Commission reported 64 new fatalities, the biggest single-day increase since the virus was first detected. Beijing has asked the US to provide assistance to tackle the disease as soon as possible, instead of criticizing its effort to combat the outbreak. Meanwhile, Hong Kong has reported its first death from the incurable disease, becoming the second casualty outside China. Hong Kong leader Carrie Lam warned of serious consequences of the hospital workers' strike after the death.
The consequences yesterday were quite serious. Important services, critical operations have been affected, whether it is in the neonatal ICUs, in the isolation wards, or patients awaiting certain cancer treatments. All these have been affected.
Health officials said the patient suffered from sudden heart failure.
In Taiwan, 13 people have died in the last week from the H1N1 strain of swine flu. The Taiwanese government says 56 people lost their lives to the virus in the last 3 months. The government says in this season there have been 750 swine flu cases with severe complications. Of the severe cases, 41% of patients are over age of 65 years. Government data suggests 43 patients who died from the virus in the last 3 months were not vaccinated. Moving on to new developments in the Middle East, the UN Security Council says it will hear a closed-door briefing on Thursday from President Trump's advisor Jared Kushner on his Middle East peace plan. Speaking to reporters in New York, Council President Marc-Maxime de Bottswer said Kushner will speak to diplomats for an hour. Bottswer said he hopes Kushner will answer questions and reservations surrounding the deal. The UNSC president said he wants the Council to be united on the issue. He said the Security Council will also hold a meeting with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas on February 11th. Last week, US President Donald Trump unveiled his controversial Middle East peace plan, sparking outrage from many countries. Meanwhile, Palestine has turned the Sudanese head of state's meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu a stab in the back. Syrian Palestinian officials say Barakat denounced the meeting, saying it has outraged all Palestinians. Barakat called it a blatant departure from the Arab Peace Initiative at a time when Israel is trying to liquidate the Palestinian cause. Yesterday, Netanyahu met secretly in Uganda with head of Sudan's Sovereign Council, Abdel Fattah al-Burhan. Both leaders agreed to work to forge normal relations for the first time. The meeting came on the day the Organization of Islamic Cooperation unanimously rejected US President Trump's Middle East peace plan. The UN says it is alarmed by recent clashes between Turkish and Syrian government forces in northwestern Syria. The international body has called for calm and pressed each side to return to negotiations. Speaking to the media in New York, UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric said the growing conflict threatens regional peace. Dujarric said the UN is in contact with officials in Syria, Turkey, and Russia and urged them to de-escalate. He said the UN is also concerned by reports of civilian casualties and large-scale displacements. Yesterday, Turkey claimed it killed 76 Syrian soldiers in retaliation of 8 Turkish soldiers who died in shelling. Syrian state media says the artillery fire hit a natural gas plant in the south-central area of Homs, as well as the Ebla gas plant. The World Health Organization says the first flight carrying critically ill Yemeni patients has left the rebel-held capital Sana'a. The UN body said the people will receive life-saving care not available in Yemen. It is the first such aid flight in over 3 years. The UN says 8 patients and their relatives took off for Amman in a UN-marked plane. The majority were women and children suffering with aggressive cancers and brain tumors. The WHO confirmed the medical evacuation is expected to continue with another 3 flights this week. White House lawyers and Democratic House managers have wrapped up the closing arguments in President Donald Trump's Senate impeachment trial. The Republican-dominated Senate is largely expected to vote along party lines to acquit Trump on Wednesday. This report has more.
President Trump's acquittal is almost certain, as a 2/3 majority is required in the Senate for a conviction. As it is, Republicans hold 53 seats to the Democrats' 47. Chief House Prosecutor Adam Schiff delivered an emotional speech, saying Americans cannot trust Trump to do the right thing.
Can we be confident that Americans and not foreign powers will get to decide, and that the president will shun any further foreign interference in our democratic affairs? And the short, plain, sad, incontestable answer is no, you can't. You can't trust this president to do the right thing, not for 1 minute, not for one election, not for the sake of our country.
Trump's lawyers flatly reject allegations against the president, who is accused of abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. White House counsel Pat Cipollone said Trump did nothing wrong, calling the trial purely partisan and political.
We have an impeachment that is purely partisan and political. It's opposed by bipartisan members of the House. It does not even allege a violation of law. It is passed in an election year, and we're sitting here on the day that election season begins in Iowa. It is wrong. There is only one answer to that, and the answer is to reject those articles of impeachment.
Trump is just the 3rd president in U.S. history to be impeached by the House of Representatives.
From presidential impeachment trial, we go to presidential elections of 2020 in the US. The Democratic National Committee has delayed the result of the Iowa presidential primary caucus. The DNC says the result of the first caucus in the primary race are subject to quality checks after reports of inconsistencies in 3 sets. A change in the rules since the 2016 race now requires a caucus to report 3 sets of numerical data instead of 2 for each count. The Iowa vote will offer a crucial early look at the viability of the 11 Democrats still in the race. Frontrunners Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders and the former Vice President Joe Biden face a key test in the sparsely populated states. Only 41 delegates are up for grabs for candidates looking to pick up momentum early in the race. Turkey has again refused to recognize Russia's annexation of Crimea, branding it illegal. During a state visit to Kiev, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said Turkey supports Ukrainian sovereignty. Erdogan said Turkey is closely monitoring the condition of Crimea's Tatar Turks and will continue to work with Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said he was grateful for Ankara's military and financial support. Zelensky also asked for Turkish support to secure the release of Ukrainians in Russian prisons, including the Crimean Tatars. The European Parliament has announced its strong support for the opening of talks that could lead to Albania joining the bloc. The Parliament's President David Sassoli said the process should resume despite a slowdown at the end of last year. At a joint press conference with Prime Minister Edi Rama, Sassoli said Albania's membership is as necessary as that of other Western Balkan countries. He said the country has made huge progress in line with EU expectations. Rama calls Sassoli a long-standing friend and a supporter of Albania's full integration into the European bloc. Sudesh Shaman, the attacker responsible for the Streatham stabbing attack, had pled guilty to terror-related charges in 2018. So why was he back on the streets while he was still radicalized? London Mayor Sadiq Khan says the UK's legal system does not have the tools needed to keep dangerous terrorism convicts in prison. This report has more.
Imran was sentenced to 3 years and 4 months in jail after confessing to possessing terrorism-related documents. This included 3 manuals on knife fighting. He was released after serving only half of his sentence just 2 days before the Streatham attack. London's Mayor Sadiq Khan says this means the attack was completely preventable.
Well, I've been concerned for some time, and I've made my views clear in relation to changes in law made by the government, which mean that judges haven't got the tools they used to have to keep people in prison longer who are still a danger to the public.
This is an opinion that's being echoed by other citizens.
I think the wider issue and the more important issue to talk about is the release of any prisoner that's at risk and why they're being released when they're pretty much a known danger. I think that's an issue that needs to be addressed in Parliament.
Prime Minister Boris Johnson has already vowed to set tougher rules on releasing people convicted of terrorist offences. It remains to be seen what wider impact this will have on the British legal system.
We're taking a short break. Coming up next in this news bulletin is Page's ski resort becomes first to ban plastic. Copenhagen begins 23-day light festival. Welcome back to our news bulletin. In Ethiopia, the government is trying to attract foreign investment by offering cheap labor in textile factories. The country is looking to follow in China's footsteps by building a strong manufacturing sector to offer jobs for its young workforce. But despite high unemployment, young Ethiopians see things differently. Watch this report on what they have to say.
When Zeman Zarihun landed a job at a textiles factory in southern Ethiopia, he thought he had won a ticket to a better life. But just months later, he resigned.
It was very difficult. I suffered a lot at this company. We were made to work long hours for a laughable salary. It was exhausting.
These conditions have put off many more workers, feeding a growing disenchantment with the country's drive towards industrialization. Earning an average of just €23 per month, textiles workers in Ethiopia are among the worst paid in the world.
If wage is high and investment doesn't come, not new employment is going to be created.
And many manufacturing bosses are happy with the government's approach.
I never seen what we are getting the support from government of Ethiopia. I never get anywhere else.
Many of the workers being swept up in Ethiopia's drive towards industrialization come from rural and farming backgrounds. And so the concept of organizing into formal trade unions is taking a while to get off the ground. But things are gradually changing.
In the near future, we establish, I'm sure that no more than 2 months or 3 months, we establish a labor union in this industry park.
But it will take time for these unions to fully form and start exerting serious influence. And with youth unemployment still high in Ethiopia, factories have no problem replacing the disgruntled workers who decide to leave manufacturing behind.
In Italy, the management of the Peja ski resort has started a war against pollution. The first move is to ban plastic cups, spoons and straws. Nestled in the Alps, the resort has become the first ski resort to ban single-use items. More in this report.
Abandon all plastic and reduce plastic. These are the signs displayed at the Peja resort. The decision was made after scientists revealed the Forni glacier could contain between 131 and 162 million plastic particles. Tourism is a major contributor to the Italian economy. Last winter, 137,000 skiers visited this resort.
As for the cable car tickets, we replaced one-day ski passes, which were previously covered with plastics, with paper tickets.
The local tourism board is also optimistic about the decision. Banned plastic items have been replaced with alternatives.
Basically, we've changed everything, starting from the small items. Plastic bottles have been replaced by glass bottles, but also straws, containers, glasses, single-use plastic. All these things have been removed and replaced with alternatives using different materials such as cellulose, paste, cardboard and other materials compatible with nature.
Skiers are also backing this eco-friendly choice.
I'm sure we are not able to get rid of plastic 100% because we need it for life economy. But if we reduce it somehow, it would be great for us, for the earth.
This is not the first environmentalist choice the valley has made. They already use renewable energy produced by 3 small hydroelectric plants.
Denmark has kicked off a 23-day light festival in Copenhagen. The festival brings some much-needed light and color to the dark and wintry Danish capital. Enjoy some spectacular scenes from the show in this report.
February is one of the darkest months in Denmark. The sun sets quite early with temperatures below zero. But at the Tivoli Gardens in Copenhagen, a light festival has brightened up the city. Children skate under a glittery winter umbrella made out of 1 million lights, while 11 swans swim in the lake around the dancing lights. A green laser beam stretches across the city sky to remind people to get out of home and enjoy the show.
It is so nice. I feel me like little child. I'm so happy that I seen it, and my Instagram is full of the light of the all these things. It's really, really very nice.
It's really nice, and it's the lights are really pretty to look at, and it creates a very cozy environment.
This is the 3rd year that the festival is taking place. Guided boats, tours have been arranged to see the 60 light installations on bridges and buildings.
In this season, we try to add an art dimension to this. We have invited artists to celebrate the interior of Tivoli, bringing in artworks based on lighting, and it's working out well.
The festival will last throughout February.
Stock markets across Europe are trading higher as investors brush aside economic fears over the coronavirus outbreak. Major stock earnings led the gains as market sentiment improved. London's FTSE 100 is trading nearly 1.5% higher after shares of BP climbed 3.5%. Frankfurt's DAX and the Paris CAC 40 each gained nearly 1%. In Asia, Seoul's Kospi led the gains, closing nearly 2% higher. The Shanghai Composite gained over 1% after recovering from yesterday's crash. Hong Kong's Hang Seng gained 1% with shares of Tencent and Alibaba surging. In the meantime, the price of international benchmark Brent crude surged over 0.5%, barring early gains. Now let's look at the weather from around the globe. This is all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news.